He ran 9.67 seconds. Only Usain Bolt has ever gone faster under any conditions in the history of the human race. Let that sit for a second. Now, let me tell you who did it. Not a Jamaican, not an American, an Italian. Except that's not even fully true either, because the man who just ran the fastest wind-aided 100m ever recorded was born in El Paso, Texas. His American father left when he was 20 days old. His teenage Italian mother raised him alone in a small town on Lake Garda. No father, no money, no plan. Usain Bolt watched this happen. The greatest sprinter who has ever lived, watching a nobody run a time that only he himself has ever beaten. Because this isn't the first time this man shocked Bolt's era. He did it once before in Tokyo 4 years ago. And the story of how he got there doesn't start on a track. It starts on Facebook. We are going to get to the 9.67. But first, you need to hear what his mental coach told him before Tokyo. Because without that conversation, none of this happens. Not the gold medal, not the 9.67, nothing. And once you hear what she said, you'll understand this was never really a sprinting story. Let's go back to the beginning. Not Italy, America.
El Paso, Texas.
A U.S. Army soldier stationed in Italy meets a 16-year-old Italian girl. They fall for each other. She's pregnant. They move to Texas together to a base in El Paso, and a baby is born. His name is Marcell. 20 days later, the Army transfers the father to South Korea. The mother is left alone in Texas with a newborn and no plan. So she does the only thing she can. She takes her son and goes home back to Italy, back to a small town called Desenzano del Garda on the shores of a lake most Americans have never heard of. That baby grows up there. No father, no American family, just his mother and a question that never really goes away. Why didn't he come back for me? Here's the part that hits different. If you grew up without a dad, Marcell didn't get closure. He didn't get an explanation. He got silence. Years of it. When social media showed up, he found his father on Facebook. His father actually sent him friend requests. And Marcell didn't answer, not once. In interviews years later, he called him a stranger. Not my dad, a stranger. He said flat out that not having a father shaped everything about who he became. The fear, the walls, all of it traces back to this one guy who left and never really came back. If that's you or someone you know, you already feel where this is going. Now, here's the twist nobody talks about. Track wasn't even his sport. Not really. Marcell built his whole athletic identity around the long jump. That was his thing. That was who he was. Then in 2018, a knee injury takes it away. Just like that, the one identity he built for himself, gone. So what does he do? He switches to the 100m. Not out of some grand vision, out of desperation. He's 24 years old, starting over in a brand new event with zero track record. His first legal 100-meter time is a 10.08. That's not a world-class time. That's a maybe this doesn't work out time. Think about that for a second. Two things abandoned this guy, his father, and then the sport he built his identity around. Both gone before the rest of the world even knew his name. This is where it gets strange and where the real story actually starts. At the end of 2020, Marcell brings in a mental coach. Her name is Nicoletta Romanazzi. And in one of their early sessions, she tells him something that sounds almost insane for an athlete to hear. She tells him his legs are locking up before races. Not because of his training, not because of his technique, because of his father. She explains that the anxiety, the tension, the moment right before the gun where his legs go stiff and heavy, all of it is coming from one place, an open wound he never dealt with, the father who vanished. She tells him he cannot become the fastest man in the world carrying that weight. He has to face it. He has to reach out. For an American audience, this hits differently because the father isn't some abstract Italian relative. He's American. He's out there somewhere in the States right now. The wound is American, which means the healing has to cross an ocean. So Marcell does it. He reaches out to the father. After he called a stranger for over 2 decades. Actual phone calls, actual texts, half of it running through Google Translate because his English isn't even that strong. It's not smooth. It's not a movie moment. It's awkward and slow and uncomfortable. 2 people trying to build 25 years of relationship out of a phone screen. But it's real and it's happening right as he's building toward the biggest race of his life. Before we get to Tokyo, I want to ask you something. If someone told you that calling the parent who abandoned you was the only way to reach your dream, do you make that call? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now, because Marcell made that call, and what happened a few months later shocked the entire sport. August 1st, 2021, Tokyo, the Olympic 100-meter final. Nobody in that stadium knows who Marcell Jacobs is. He's not a favorite. He's barely a name. He has the slowest reaction time out of the blocks of anyone in the race. And then he runs them all down. 9:80 seconds European record. Olympic gold. The first Italian in history to even reach this final, let alone win it. Fred Kerley, the American everyone expected to take it, finishes second. Trayvon Bromell, one of the fastest men alive, doesn't even make the final. A man born in El Paso, Texas, who spent his whole life without a father, who switched sports at 24 out of desperation, who picked up the phone and called a stranger who happened to share his blood. That man just became the fastest man on the planet. Around this same stretch, you might remember Sam Blasowski becoming the fastest white man in history, running 9:89. If you caught that video, good, because the sprint world right now is full of names nobody predicted. And Marcell's name is at the top of that list. But this isn't a fairy tale. Real life doesn't let you stay on top forever without a fight. And what happened to Marcell after Tokyo is the part most highlight reel skip. The years right after his gold medal fall apart. Piece by piece, he picks up an inflamed sciatic nerve in his thigh that just will not heal. He's pulling out of races, withdrawing from championships. At one point, he ends up in a hospital bed in Kenya with a stomach virus. Nowhere near a track. At the 2023 World Championships, the man who won Olympic gold 2 years earlier doesn't even make the final. He runs a season's best in the semifinal, and it isn't enough. He's going home early. Think about what that does to a person. You claw your way from a 10:08 to Olympic gold. You become the fastest man on earth. And then your own body turns on you over and over for 2 straight years. While a new generation of sprinters, Noah Lyles included, start running away with the sport in your absence. Marcell makes a brutal call. He leaves his longtime coach, the one who took him from long jumper to Olympic champion, and uproots his entire life. He moves to Jacksonville, Florida to train under a new coach, surrounded by a group that includes Trayvon Brell, the same man who couldn't even make the Tokyo final. Now Marcell's training next to him every single day, trying to rebuild from nothing in a country that isn't fully his and isn't fully foreign either. Fitting considering where this story started. By 2024, he says the injuries are finally behind him. He walks into Paris as the defending Olympic champion. Confident, healthy, ready to defend the title that made him a legend. Paris, August 4th, 2024, the 100-meter final. Marcell barely scrapes into the race as one of the fastest losers out of the semis. It's tight from the gun. A blanket finish. The whole field separated by nothing. Noah Lyles crosses first in 9:784. Keishane Thompson takes silver. Fred Kerley takes bronze. Marcell finishes 5th. 9:85 seconds. He's seen limping off the track afterward, not celebrating, not defending anything, just gone in the blink of an eye from world's fastest man to 5th place in his own title defense. I wanted to be the one celebrating, he says after. But my career doesn't end here. 3 years of pain, a country change, a coaching change, all of it. And it still isn't enough on the biggest stage in the world. That's where we leave him. 5th place limping. Faith in himself. The only thing he's got left to hold on to. Which brings us back to last week.
Austria Eisenstadt.
Marcell Jacobs runs 9:67 seconds. Now, here's the honest part, because you deserve the truth and not just hype. That time came with a strong tailwind well past the legal limit. So it doesn't count as an official record. But strip away the technicality for a second and look at the raw number. No wind-aided 100-meter run in the history of the sport has ever been faster. And in any conditions, legal or not, only Usain Bolt has ever run quicker than this man just did. A 31-year-old born in Texas, raised by a teenage mother in a small Italian town, who called the father who abandoned him because a mental coach told him that was the only way to unlock what was already inside his legs, who won Olympic gold, who fell all the way to 5th place 3 years later, and who just answered every doubt with a
9:67 in Austria.
Say the number again. 9:67. Fastest wind-dated time ever run. Only Bolt has gone faster. Period. Here's the piece that ties this whole thing together. After Tokyo, reporters asked Marcell what actually changed, what made the difference. He didn't talk about training blocks or technique or sprint mechanics. He said the first thing his mental coach ever told him was that he needed to build a relationship with the father he never had. He called it the hardest thing he has ever done. Harder than any race. The phone call to America wasn't a side note in this story. According to Marcell himself, it was the reason 9. 67 seconds. And it started with a call to a man he used to call a stranger. So where does this go from here? Los Angeles 2028. The country where he was born. The state his father calls home. The city that sits right at the center of both halves of who he is. He'll be 33 years old running an Olympic final on American soil for the first time in his life against the best sprinters alive with a 9. 67 already sitting on the board. Does Marcell Jacobs stand on that starting line in Los Angeles, in the country his father never left, and win a second Olympic gold medal on his own home soil? Drop your answer below. Every single comment gets